Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you to StudyIQ in this daily Hindu editorial videos. In the morning these videos come and in the evening the PIB videos they come. And today due to some power cut this lesson is delayed. So 9th of February today is, and today is Saturday. So not much editorials are there. Motivation is don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. You see, dreams are going to show you a different reality because they give you a particular experience where you can live for some moments a particular aspiration, and that's why these are a great motivation, a great booster. If these dreams are positive, if these dreams are giving you that feel, then certainly they can push you towards your success. And you can use them, you can use the emotion created by these dreams. So they are very powerful, and problems are certainly there and they will always pull you back. But dreams, they can be positive and they can be a counter for all these problems, because these problems they will always try to depress you, but dreams are going to make you aspirational and a believer of your potential. So that's why dreams are important. So don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. Use these. Next, these are the numbers where you can call and you can ask for these pen drive courses by StudyIQ. These are extremely important, and whether you are preparing for UPSC, RBI, railway or something like that, then these are created by experts and the selected people. Now the MCQs that I gave to you yesterday. Stop TB partnership, the headquarter is in Geneva, Switzerland. Okay, and it was started by WHO, but now the responsibility of administration is with UNOPS, Office Project Services of the UN, and it is running this particular program, and it's a very important program for TB eradication. So D, none would be the correct answer here. Next option, Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty, which was signed in 1987 between the USA and USSR. That was the Cold War's age, and they were keeping each other in check. So that's why this treaty was very important. Now USA has withdrawn from it. So this is a correct statement. Second statement is wrong, because it is saying that INF Treaty eliminated all ballistic and cruise missiles. All is wrong here. It is only land-based missiles. Those were banned from launching, and in this particular range of distance. So all is wrong here. So only one would be the correct answer. Next, the longest rail tunnel, second longest rail tunnel. It was inaugurated in Kerala. Yesterday we discussed about it. So Kerala is on Malabar coast. That was a tricky question. Coromandel is Tamil Nadu's coast, and Konkan is Goa and Karnataka's coast. So the answer would be B, correct. Next, the editorials today. You see, this editorial is important for us from the exam point of view, and a little we can discuss about this particular article, because it is talking about the Iranian revolution, and 40 years are completed today, and that's why we need to talk about this. This is not gonna be much of importance, because if something of this sort of news, that elections happen in that country, and if we have some direct linkages, if it is going to affect us on the international level or something like that, then certainly a big article would come on this, but it doesn't seem like that. Next, this is the political article, so we won't discuss this, and this is the ground zero issue, and it is talking about a very crucial issue of women trafficking and the prostitution issue. So you should read this article. There is no point we discuss it, but it is very important to read it, because it is talking about a real situation. Next, surveying India's unemployment numbers. A lot of controversy is going on regarding the data that is not being released for the unemployment numbers. So government is under immense criticism, and India's labor participation rate, very low by world standards, fell sharply after demonetization, and women bore the brunt. This is the essence of it. As I told you, it is important for GS paper 2, and you see, because the government is not able to release all the data, and we are a signatory to this SDDS, Special Data Dissemination Standard. It's the standard created by IMF, the same organization that helps in countries for the BOP crisis, but it puts a lot of conditions, as it put on us in 1991. That was the economic liberalization phase that started, and we took a loan from IMF, so it put a lot of conditions. So we are one of the first signatories to this SDDS standard. It was in discussion 2 years back also. So it requires monthly measurement of the unemployment rate, because they are going to evaluate the situation of country, and it is going to help in for other countries to know about India's economic condition, the macro measures here, and the employment scenario, and the way economy is growing, and what are the issues that are going on. So regarding that, this data is needed periodically, and they need it monthly. But there is no point that India is issuing this monthly data. There is no data available that is monthly regarding unemployment. And even today, it is impossible for the government to release the annual data and the quarterly data. So this is a huge problem, and it's kind of a excuse from this SDDS standard. And according to the writer, he says that this excuse and this seeking of relaxation from this data release is certainly problematic for a country like India, which is talking heavily about the demographic dividend and the FDI and all. So here this is going to create a problem, and it is a problem for citizens, and it is a problem for government's future also. Because without data, how they are going to make policies, how they are going to evaluate the situation, and how they are going to know about the ground realities, and what is the level of anguish between people. So it is all going to be a mess for the government also. Now the article talks about a private enterprise, that is Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, and the Hindu has been talking about this organization in many articles, and it's a very prestigious institution, and that disseminates data, because they do this CPHS, that is Consumer Pyramids Household Survey. It's extremely important because it is comparable to the SSO's data. NSSO, that is the organization of Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So they take samples, and that's a household survey by NSSO. So in the same way, CPHS is done, and they take a bigger sample here. NSSO takes this numbers data 1,0724 number, and this CPHS takes 1,72,000. That means there is a difference of 71,000 numbers. Now see, if we compare the data of NSSO and the data of CPHS, in a way NSSO data and its methodology is a little complex, but CPHSO's data gathering is straightforward and simple according to the writer. They say that they take the larger sample, and it's a comprehensive surveying its entire sample every 4 months. So it is happening every 4 months. Each survey is a wave. It's like a wave, and they call it a wave, and it's a continuous survey. It does not stop after some time, and they have the status of till the last day. It is not like that they are producing 6 months back's data or the last year's data. They are totally updated. So much larger sample and much higher frequency than the NSSO. That's why the writer says that CPHS data is highly reliable, and that's the most important thing regarding the data. You see, they take face-to-face interviews. It's a GPS enabled and tech savvy data, because they use smartphones and tablets. So that's why it's a updated and progressive data also that talks about the real situation. Now you see, there are 4 categories they talk about. They talk about the unemployed people, employed people. Second, unemployed people willing to work and actively looking for the job. Third category, unemployed people willing to work but not actively looking for a job. Fourth one, that is the most distressed one, unemployed but neither willing nor looking for a job. So that these are 4 categories, and that is a main difference between the CPSS and NSO's data, because they take the reference period of the employment status of the respondent. So these are the employment status giving categories, and these are taken by CPHSS. Now according to this data, a shocking revelation has been done here. Now see, government was saying that unemployment rate is coming down, and with a fast pace, that according to them, that not many people today are unemployed, and we have created too many jobs, and that's why unemployment rate is coming down. That is the government's claim. But if we go by the data of CPHS, what it is talking, it is saying that the problem is that the people who were unemployed, and willing to work, they were looking for the jobs during the years of 2016 and 2017 and now 2018. When this demonetization happened and when this GST came, the major impact was on the small level employers who were giving employment to these aspiring people who were unemployed and they were willing to work. But now when they saw the situation in 2016 and that was continued in 2017, that no major employment is available and the conditions are really tough, and these people were flocking from rural areas to the cities, and it is very difficult to survive in the cities without money, without job. So they became hopeless, and many of these unemployed people, they left the job arena and they were no more looking for the jobs. So they became hopeless, and that was very distressing condition and a negative condition. They became hopeless, and because they left this job arena, that's why their number in comparison to the total labor force, unemployed people willing to work and who left this arena, their proportion in comparison to the total labor force, that came down. Now you see, this is the formula: unemployed people by total labor force. When many people would leave this area, would leave this labor force participation and the aspiration for it, that means automatically this unemployment rate would come down. So this did not happen because of more job creation. This was not the case. This happened because many people lost hopes and they left the job aspiration area and they went back to their villages because they no more could stay in cities without a job and without money. So that is the main problem. So this distress is very, very huge, and in this data this thing is totally clear that the unemployment rate came down negatively. It is not a positive situation, and it is not because of the job creation. That's the thing. And you see, when government is making these kind of claims that we sold 27 lakh autos in the last 2-3 years, they are not standing somewhere, they all are working, so they are all giving employment. But they always forget that these autos and these employment giving avenues, they were also being sold in the previous government's phase also, and previous government's time also. So nobody made these kind of claims that we have sold autos and they are giving employment to lakhs of people. It is not the case, but now government is making these kind of claims. That's why these are the articles which are showing us some real picture here, and that's the huge issue, and that's why it is the negative criticism. And too much of negative criticism is going on in the Hindu articles these days because it's the election year, and they are evaluating heavily, and they are evaluating on very strict grounds. That is the issue. Now see, the main problem with this particular situation is that when people would become hopeless in the economy, then that becomes the most stressing phase, and for the future this situation is most negative. That is gonna bring very negative results, because labor participation, if it is less, then the situations like more suicides and all these will follow, because they don't have any other avenues. They came to cities because they did not own much of the land and all, and what they are going to do now, that is the situation. And the GST implementation, that was also tough, because the small players and the small enterprises, they found it very difficult to comply with the norms, and they had to employ these chartered accountants, and also it was a very expensive deal for them. So they were majorly hit, and after demonetization they could not pay to these laborers in cash. So that's why many of the jobs lost. If you see the numbers, you see the people who were employed, mostly they retained their jobs, but the people who were looking for the jobs, they lost hope here. And if we go by the number, main picture that comes out of the CPHS data, that India's labor participation rate is very low by the world standards already, and it fell very sharply after the demonetization phase. It was 47%, and the world's average is 66%. It is before demonetization. It's the pre-demonetization phase. Okay, after demonetization, 47 to 45, 2% less. So around 13 million people, they lost their jobs. And you see, if we talk about the women, then they actually bore the brunt of this demonetization and the GST phase, because they lost their jobs heavily. And it was the cultural factors, it was the conservative family factors, and some education factors. They all were contributory to the less participation in the labor force for women, especially for the women. So there is a specific case of gender in this unemployment scenario also. Official statistics, even India's official statistics, they show us the picture that India's female labor participation is very low. Already it's very low because of rising household incomes. When income rises for the family, then mostly the cases are like that women would stop working. When it was a poor condition, then they were also working alongside with their husbands, but now they are not working because the income is satisfying. And more enrollments in the higher education for girls, so that's why less labor participation. And these are the positive signs actually, but negative signs are cultural factors, and employers are also biased against hiring women because a lot of issues are there, security and much more need of leaves and pregnancy. These are the factors where employers are very less interested in employing women. That's the case. Next, you see, CPHS shows that the situation with respect to women's participation in the labor force is extremely poor. And after demonetization, if we see the numbers, it was 15.5% only in 2016, which dropped to 11.9% after demonetization. And in 2018, after the GST implementation, it came to 11%. So only 11% participation. And the males participation was 74.5 in pre-demonetization phase, and after that 72.4. So there is a huge gap in the labor force participation, and mainly it's for the poor people. So that's a very distressing thing. And for the rural women, it fell to 11.3% from 15.6, and for the urban women mainly, that was the most affected category, from 15.2% to 10.5% only. So only 10.5% labor participation. So it's a huge deal, and we need to take care about this. If we talk about demographic dividend, the common observation is that we are ignoring women here. We are ignoring the gender factor heavily in the demographic dividend achievement. And when we are ignoring higher education, when the sector specific skills are also not up to world standard, then these are the negative factors that are making this thing impossible that we achieve this demographic dividend. And you see, it's not a condition for always. It would remain only till 2030. So we have only 10 years to tap this advantage of demographic dividend, and after that this would turn into demographic drag, because this whole young cohort would turn into a mature population and a aged population. So they will be a burden on this country. So whatever positive advantage, whatever positive impact we can get from this demographic dividend, we have only 10 years left. So we need to bring these fair and correct data. We need to disseminate these data so that our policymakers, our institutions, they can have the real picture with them, and they can follow this right data. They can make policies, they can make institutional ways, and how this country should progress, they can be certain of that. So that's why this right information and right data, that should be open to all. That is the main message in this particular article. Next article is regarding the 40 years of Iranian Revolution. It was 1979 year when Iranian Revolution happened, but some specific things were there with this particular Iranian Revolution. What were that? You see, at that time, mainly the revolutions which were happening, they were because of some conventional reasons, whether people were miffed with the government, whether they were protesting against the tyrannous regime, or maybe there was no democracy, or maybe economic distress, and maybe due to some opinion based fight and some gender gaps and all, and unemployment. These were the conventional reasons. Because of that, these specific revolutions were happening all over the world at that time, and they all were pushed by young groups who were liberal in their thoughts, and they demanded employment, education and freedom. These three things they want always. But this Iranian revolution was specific in a sense that it was not because of these reasons. The Shah regime, which was who was a monarch, and in this regime it was pro westernized world, and it was progressive also. They were keeping economy in control, and Iran was prosperous at that time, so no factor was there. These kind of factors were not there with Iran, but it was the religious wave that was created by leaders like Khomeini. And you see what Khomeini did. It created a particular group of followers who were totally in a favor of Islamic Republic, and Iran became the first country in the modern world who was established institutionally an Islamic Republic. So it was institutionally established, and this Shiite rule or the Shia regime was institutionally established as the Islamic Republic of Iran. So they actually denied the secularism aspect, they denied the progressive regime of Shah, and they brought this pure Islamist fervor to this particular revolution, and they wanted to establish a republic which is based on pure Islamic ideals. That became a trouble, and that's why this Iranian revolution was unique, and it brought a lot of ground changes. But you see, what is the problem today? The problem today is that today's young cohort, today's young groups, they are very liberal, and they are finding it very difficult to fight with the established regime today, because that is conservative, and the clergies and these clerics and all, they dominate the scene, they dominate the political scene. And these young groups, they want more liberalization, they want more freedom, and as ever going issues like unemployment and all, these all are going on. So now it is a difficult phase for Iran, and the writer is saying that some kind of pressure is going on inside these people's mind, these young people's mind, and these student groups, they are certainly going to bring a second Iranian revolution, and that would be a conventional revolution, and that would be against the conservatism. So the main issue here in this article is, when this revolution, Iranian revolution 1979, that was on the name of God and establishing a Shiite's theocracy, that did not help much. And after 40 years, the reality is in front of everybody, and it is in front of the young groups, young population, and they came to know that these religious radical ideas, they are never going to help. Only progress, only scientific achievements and scientific advancement, that is going to help. And today, in this age of information, in this age of internet and all, everyone knows about the real issues which are helping this world. We use smartphones, that is not based on some religion or something like that, that is based on science. So science is going to help. And when people push these religious ideals and all, and this theocracy like regimes, then certainly they are of no use today. And that's why it's a huge problem. The message for India is also experiencing a boost in these religious ideals and these cultural pushes and these monoculture ideas in these universities and all. So that's why these things are unprogressive, and we are also going to bear the burden of these particular pushes, and certainly we would be pushed back in this age of science, and we need very high progress here. We need a demographic dividend, we need employment here, and the world is changing very fast, the inequality is changing very fast, there are major issues of economies, and there are major issues of poverty and malnutrition and all. So in this age, these religious pushes are certainly not going to be a big help. That's why the case of Iran is very unique here, and the way this revolution was mystifying at that time, and that was irrational at that time, and that was unconventional in 1979, that became an example for the modern world. That modern world can only be run by these scientific revolutions, not by religious revolutions. And whenever these issues of distress, these issues of protests, these issues of we can say dissatisfaction, and the street protests by the people, when these kind of things come and the instability follows after that, then certainly these religious groups and these radical groups, they always want to take over the situation, and certainly they will try to change the regime because they want the power, and they will take advantage of these distresses. And this is a very sensitive phase, we need to take care about this. We are also going through these issues of dissatisfaction over the employment scenario and the poverty issues, inequality issues. Here, this distress can be used by some fanatic groups and who want to impose this monoculture. So we should be aware about these situations, and that's why writer is talking about the Iranian revolution today in Hindu, and that's very relevant. The ideal and the learning from this particular issue is very, very crucial. So it's all for today, and the implicit tensions which continue to exist between tradition and modernity. We are also having this question, the question of tradition versus modernity, which way we should follow. So we should find a balance here, and tradition, certainly there should not be vanished off, they should remain, but in a positive way, in a guiding way. And modernity is a truth, modernity would certainly come, maybe you push it today, but it would again erupt later, and people would want to be modernized. That is the thing, and that is the ultimate truth. They will never stay behind, and especially in this age of internet and information, and in this fast age of scientific revolutions, people would not stay behind, they would become modern. So this tussle is really huge, and we need to find a balance with our country. We have a huge opportunity today. We are going through this change, so we can manage these issues, but certainly it would need discussions, it would need learning, it would need good education, it would need alignment to the modern world and understanding them in the light of traditions. So traditions are the guiding forces, they should be guiding forces, and modernity should follow. We should not resist against modernity, because it is the ultimate truth. We cannot fight with it for a longer period of time. That is the issue. Next, the data today. You see, Ladakh is a district in Jammu and Kashmir, and it is the biggest district. Now they have given it the status of a division. It's an administrative unit, and now one divisional commissioner would be appointed here, one inspector general would be appointed here, because this is the area that is totally cut off for almost 6 months of winter, and that's why this is done. And now there is Jammu division, there would be Kashmir division, and this Ladakh division. Right now this Ladakh region comes under the Kashmir division. So it is going to be a demand for a Pir Panjal division and Chenab division also. They are also demanding this divisional status, and these political messaging and political allurement is going on, as they are promising a lot in the next elections that we would declare Pir Panjal and Chenab as divisions, because that is beneficial from the administrative side. And you see Ladakh, there is a Ladakh range here, that is the part of Trans Himalayas. Ladakh range and Jaskar range. Between Ladakh and Jaskar range, The Indus River flows, and the city of Leh is also located on the banks of Indus River. So Leh would be the center of this division. So this is the news. And next we are going to run many conservation plans for the Asiatic lion. Asiatic lion is only present in the state of Gujarat and in this Kathiawad Peninsula's Gir National Park. Only place where Asiatic lions are present. And many times we saw in the pictures that they came out during the floodings and all, and heavy rains were there when in this national parks. So they came on roads and all. So these issues are always there, and you see some troubles, some diseases, some viruses: rabies virus, canine distemper virus, canine parvovirus, feline immunodeficiency virus, and feline leukemia virus. These are major reasons for their decline in the population, and we need to take care about all these situations in these conservation plans. Now the state government and the central government, they both are joining hands for this, and they are going to conserve this, because maximum focus is on tiger population in India, and the tiger count is also going on. It happens for every 4 years for the tigers, but it happens for every 5 years for lions, and there are only 5 to 3 left according to the 2015's data. So this is very sensitive concern. It is equally important as these tigers are, and you see it's a beautiful animal, and it's on the top of the food chain. Okay, because it's a predator and a most important predator of the food chain in the area. So ecosystem is also going to be negatively affected if the species is lost. Next, the news regarding the bedaquiline. Bedaquiline is a drug that is working now in the cases of multi-drug resistant TB. As I explained to you, when people stop taking medicines when they are diagnosed with tuberculosis, if they stop taking medicines after 1, 2 or 3 months and they don't complete their courses, then their TB is converted into MDR TB, multi-drug resistant TB, because that the bacteria, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria is very smart, and it is evolving very fast, and it has created a resistance towards the antibiotics, which are normally first line drugs. These are given. Now they are failing because of this resistance, and we need to give second line drugs or the third line drugs. And this bedaquiline is the second line drug that is working on the MDR TB patients. But the issue of patents is certainly a problem, because the patent lies with the Johnson & Johnson company, and for next 4 years it is going to be extended. So now some people, they are protesting against this extension, because if the patent would be extended, then certainly the generic medicine of this particular drug would not be possible. What are these generic medicines? Suppose bedaquiline is a drug, and as these drugs are, which are very expensive, and these are mostly in the cases of used in the cases of cancer and diabetes and HIV and these TB diseases. These are fatal diseases. So drugs are expensive, and the company or any pharmaceutical giant that produces these drugs, so these drugs are very expensive, and poor populations of country like India, they cannot afford it. Suppose it is for 10,000 rupees a tablet, but who can afford it in India? Only rich people, they can afford it. But you see, that's why these generic medicines help. These are the same drugs, the same amount of salts and all, these are there with the generic medicines, but they are making it for the poor population. And here these companies, they protest a lot. The original manufacturers, they protest a lot, and they always talk about the patent issue, because they say that we invested heavily for the research and all, and we are going to sell it for the higher price, and we cannot compromise with it. And this is the ethical issue also, because poor populations, they also want their lives, and they want cheap drugs because they cannot afford the expensive ones. So that's why generic medicines are allowed, and India is a major hub of production of these generic medicines, whether these are the cancer drugs or TB drugs or any other diseases drugs. So it's an important case, and this issue is going on always, because they also want their profits, their due profits, because they invented these drugs, but these are expensive. Okay, next, the issue of tariff wars between America and India. You see, we saw 2+2 dialogue, we saw Comcast agreement, a lot of good issues are there. USA is demanding India's help in the Afghanistan situation. So all things are in a positive direction. But you see, these trade wars, they are certainly putting a question mark on this situation, where India brought these e-commerce rules for these e-commerce giants like Amazon and all, Flipkart and all. Now the market-based model is only allowed for the automatic route of FDI, where they can sell on their websites products which do not belong to their own companies. Okay, and they should only sell the products of other companies, and they should give a platform to these buyers and these sellers. So it's a market-based model, and it's called B2B model, business to business model. Now we are allowing FDI only in this B2B market, a B2B model. We are not allowing on the innovative model, where these companies like Flipkart or Amazon, they can sell their own manufactured products on their websites also. We are not allowing the automatic route here, and these norms are actually a big problem for these e-commerce giants, because they were making heavy profits by these inventory model. But now from 1st of February these are applicable, and government is not giving any relaxation because elections are coming. And you see, major population of these small entrepreneurs and small shopkeepers and all, they are totally devastated after this e-commerce arena came. Everyone wants to buy online products because they are cheaper one. If we compare it with the normal conventional shopkeepers, then these things are cheap, and they give many offers, and also that's why everyone is interested in buying on the e-platforms, and they do these home deliveries and all. So that's why they are devastated, and when they are complaining about it to the governments, and government is under immense pressure during this election time, so they cannot compromise with these rules which they brought against these e-commerce giants. So now America is going to end the zero tariff policy. You see, there is an issue of a generalized system of preference, GSP, not GPS, GSP, and it is under the WTO system. What is this? Where developing nations, they want to develop their trade, external trade, and they want to do progress. So they are given some relaxation by other countries under the WTO system of GSP. What is that? When India like country, when they are going to sell their products on the international market, then other countries, they are not going to put tariffs on the Indian products, so that Indian products can be sold in other country. Although it is against the fair trade policies of WTO, but because of their developing status, these relaxations are given to country like India, where in America also our products are sold without any tariff. That's a zero tariff policy, so that Indian exports are boosted. Now America is going to end this system, and it is going to impact heavily to the Indian exporters, because now India's exports are going to become expensive, because America is going to put some tariffs on its products. So who is going to buy Indian products? They are all going to buy the American products, because manufacturers are also there, but Indian products were cheaper, that's why they were buying Indian ones. But now they are going to put these tariffs, so India's exports are going to come under immense stress. So that is the trade war, that is the tariff war, which is also going on with China country, and the economic sanctions. These are the main troubles in the international trade. So how they are going to deal with this situation, that is going to be a big problem, and India is the biggest beneficiary till date of this generalized system of preference. Indian exporters are at the maximum advantage till now, but if America is going to end it, then it is going to be a huge problem. Next, these are the MCQs. Try them and put their answer in the comment section, and PDF I am going to upload here on this Facebook group. Send me a request, I would approve. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. It was Amit.